bunch of thrifting as well. Well, it should have been thrifting, and then I found my way into the more expensive aisles, but it is what it is. So yeah, I ended up doing that. I got some stuff too. I got
What, man?
let's see, I got you ever read Wheat Belly by any chance?
No, sir. Oh, wait. Well, no, but I know what it's about.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty
Yeah, that
self-explanatory.
was.
So
Uh,
I've been reading that and trying to take some of that to heart. My mom actually got me this from
that's
one.
what this book's about.
What's that
Plant
one?
paradox.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's what this is about.
Similar idea of like cutting out the carbs or things like that and saying
Oh yeah,
plant-based or something.
it's just the wheat. The wheat is not good for us, and a lot of it's. I heard the other day it's GMO modified. A lot of it's because it's GMO modified.
Right,
And if we
right,
know how to do it properly with not a GMO modified product, then it would be probably healthy, definitely healthier, of course.
right. Yeah, I think so too. And then my mom actually got me this from a friend, Patient Heal
Oh yeah,
Thyself.
oh yeah, I have that one.
So yeah, so I'm gonna get through Wheat Belly first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go to this. So we will
That one kind
certainly
of
see.
goes back to just a plant-based diet.
Really,
Yes, sir.
seems like
Yeah.
it covers a lot. Autoimmune diseases, all kinds of stuff in here. So
Mhm.
that one's a bit beefier for sure. Wheat Belly's been fine to go through, but let's see, what else did I get that you might find interesting? Well, I got some. I almost more so just got it for the artwork, but I was very intrigued by this here. I got several books. Um, got several books here. I forget that my headset's not connected to a microphone. So I got this one because I thought the artwork was really pretty, but it's about Freemasonry and founding America.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I thought that was going to be kind of an interesting ride. And then this was one recommended by one of the podcasters or YouTubers I follow.
Hold
It's
on one
called,
second.
yeah, no
Go ahead.
problem. It's, I think it's just called Fire in the Belly by Samuel Keen.
Okay. Yeah.
Just about like being a man and just finding like motivation and the rights of manhood and stuff like that. So those are two I got this week, but I got way more than that. But
Oh, yeah. Hey, going in the kitchen. Yeah,
so
I bought that. That's why I bought this book was because of the art. It had some really cool interpretive. It was kind of.
what's that one?
Yeah. Hold on, just one second.
Mhm.
It's called Green Mansions.
Huh? Never heard of
Yeah,
that.
it's a fiction. I very seldom buy fiction, but it had some really cool like these pictures.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're all interpreting the book, and it's a different artist. Like here's a cool one, you know.
Oh, they hired different illustrators to put that stuff in there.
Oh yeah, it's, like I said, and the art is actually a different page, actually a different type of paper. And
Hmm.
this is probably one of the coolest ones. There's one where he's walking. Hold on a second. That's all right. So anyway, did you finish your book? The book?
I am done. I finished it Friday night. Actually, I stayed up a little later than I should have, and I was like, well, I've got 10 more pages. I was like, I'm not blasting through it, but I might as well go ahead and get it over with. And I really enjoyed this. I actually took quite a few notes. I mean, not that we are going to cover everything, but I made all kinds of little notes. So it's all tabbed up and highlighted and notated and all kinds of stuff on here. So
Hey, can you hold on one second, brother? Sorry.
yeah, no problem.
I'm sorry.
You're good. See if I can find my place here. See if I can get us rolling in the right direction. So we ended on 200 last time. I'm going to go ahead and pick up my first page. Actually, like I said, I took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different places that I thought were great for a chat. Not that we'll cover all of it, but we did this end of the book was really good because it covered so much about inner peace and afflictions and stuff, which it's covered a lot of. I was just making sure we don't have any dead air while you were gone. But covered a lot about like the afflictions and things, which it has for most of it, but a lot about inner peace and humility. So I really enjoyed those different aspects of it because it hasn't quite covered a lot of the inner peace aspect until the end here. So
I apologize for the camera craziness.
that's all right. It looks great. Where are
How
you
many,
located?
hey, how many views we got, man?
How many views we got? 1 million. Well, I don't put them live. I leave them unlisted for now, and then I put them up later. I probably could put them up live. Oh, maybe I'll do that for next time, depending on what we
Um,
read. I mean,
I definitely like the first part better than the second part.
really?
Yeah, that's just me particularly. I mean, it was very, it was definitely a challenging, like
Hmm.
challenged you. You know what I'm saying? To see where
Yeah.
you were at. It definitely challenged me big time.
Yeah.
I think I read every bit of it in probably in the mountains. Where
Nice.
like at the river. It just seemed
Nice.
like that was the place to read that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was I've started making we have a nicer recliner downstairs and I started making that like my little zen zone. So I'll eat, get nice and comfortable and warm, and then I would just kind of like pick this up and go for it. Just a very nice way to kind of ease into it and not like, take it to lunch or take it to work or take it wherever and hope to squeeze in some pages. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, while you were gone, I thought it was a great couple of perspectives on meditating on death and inner peace. There were a couple of moments in here that I liked, but it definitely, it's kind of funny that the part two, a lot of them were just shorter and more application based and things like that. Whereas the first part, like you said, kind of has those longer theological
It's a
ideas.
spiritual thing. It's the
Right.
spiritual stuff. Yeah.
Right. So, did anything stick out to you so far? Well, really, over the last couple of weeks, anything stuck out
I've
to you?
read it all. Like I said, it was just basically what I got from it was just dying and surrendering to God.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a challenge and challenging. How much are you? How much? Because when you think of how much we need Him,
Right.
because
Right.
one of my favorite scriptures is Jesus said, "Without me, you can do nothing."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Let me see if I can find page 240. Kind of goes along with that, where he talks about perfection. And there's he says, indeed, it is impossible to sacrifice oneself as a burnt offering before attaining perfection. And then later on, he goes on to talk about how you have to. What were you just saying? But anyway, about the purification of self, and you have to be worthless and realize how much of you is really just God, and then dying to yourself. Yeah. So I thought that was a really interesting thing, that you cannot actually be offered up until you attain perfection. That's one of the things I took notes on. Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was beautiful. Really, like you said, a lot of challenging stuff. There was a lot. It was like very it's like a very masculine discussion on it too. And he talks, like monks writing to brothers and things like that. And a lot of it is just like, don't look at women, abstain from things in life. Yeah. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that aspect. It was very meaty, like manly discussion. So yeah.
Well, what do you think about the next book?
I don't know. Did you see the one the lady recommended and took the picture of? I think it was a lady.
I didn't really pay attention to it though. No.
About let me see if I can find that real quick. And then I was
kind of discussion, I mean,
yeah, I don't know. We'll find out.
Someone picked this one. That's fine. But,
right.
I know. With it, or...
I messaged Steven and everything. I'm sad we couldn't see him. I'm sure he's.
I missed a couple, but yeah.
Right. Let's see here.
I was talking to my wife the last time and I forgot. And then the one time I was hanging out with my friend and I forgot. So.
Is he doing better? Is he doing all right?
He's doing fine. It's just daily, one day at a time for him.
Yeah.
They're all young. He's got young kids, man. Yeah. Like the oldest is 10.
Jeez.
Yeah, 10. He's got 5 from 10 down.
Wow.
Yeah, one's still in a diaper. Crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The one.
She wasn't old. Go ahead, brother.
The one the welding and Miss Welding Bear said, it's death in the silent places. It's about men surviving horrific animal attacks in the 19th, 20th century. It's graphic but well written and contains unforgettable tales. So
I wonder if that's kind of what about the Ghost in the Darkness.
Ghost in the Darkness. I don't know.
The Ghost in the Darkness was a movie with Val Kilmer, and they were hunters. And there was these, and I think that story, if that's the book I'm thinking about, that story is in that movie.
Maybe.
Yeah. Those guys are those guys. There's some, like you said, graphic. There's one where this dude falls out of a tree and an elephant just stomps him to death.
Jeez, really?
Yeah, it's graphic. Yeah, like you said, if that's the book, and it would be there in the 20 time period. Yeah.
My brother
read it, and he doesn't read too much, and he read it. He said it was really good.
Really? We might have to. I'll make a comment on there and ask her if her if the elephant story is in there, and then we'll
Yeah, the Ghost
confirm.
in the Darkness is about some lions that got bloodthirsty and started killing people.
Wow.
Yeah, or
Jeez.
there was probably some like a food shortage or something.
Hmm.
They were a little too close to the camp or to the
Mm,
cave, you know.
sure.
Yeah, and they
Sure.
were killing. They were man killers. It's pretty interesting.
I'm open to that one. That sounded interesting. I've kind of been checking my own shelf. I would try to read something that I haven't already done. Um, so I'm gonna look at my shelf. If you want to look at your shelf, I'm happy to pick something that you've read since you're here. But that one sounded interesting. That other Japanese one that guy recommended also seemed like a pretty good pick. It'd be a slower read.
Yeah,
Just a lot of I just don't know what fits. I mean, like you said, I don't know if we want to do something topical on like business or if we want to do a biography or something like that. I don't know.
yeah. Well, we got a couple of weeks because next week I'm off. So
Yeah, I'll check and see and take a look at my stuff and see what might be
I
good for the
definitely
group.
won't be here next week. So
Yeah, I won't either. I mean, Father's Day but that should give everybody time. I'll make
are you
another
the
post.
father?
I am not a father. No,
Okay.
probably going to be a year. So I mean, I get married in October, so
Oh,
we'll
wow.
see.
Okay.
It's coming up.
Is your father still with you?
Yes,
Oh, that's
he is
good, man.
here. He's actually down in Florida right now. They're on him and my mom are on vacation, so they're down there right now.
Cool. Where'd they head to?
But St. George Island is off the Panhandle a little bit. It's about
Okay.
12 hours from where we are. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's on the Gulf side.
Yes, Gulf side.
I've
Yeah,
never visited the Gulf side.
it's nice. It's nice. It's
Yeah,
warm.
me and my wife, we've been to St. Augustine several times.
I've never been. Is
Oh
that
yeah.
lower on the tip or is that
No,
all the way off?
it's on the Atlantic. It's above Daytona.
Okay. Okay.
It's
I
like
got it.
once you get past Jacksonville, it's like
Mhm.
yeah, between Jacksonville and Daytona.
Yeah.
It's the city. If you ever get a chance, it's really you'd love it. It's
St. Augustine.
yeah, stay on the beach, but yeah, if you go stay on St. Augustine Beach and then visit the city.
Mm.
But yeah, it's because it's like got the old. It's called the oldest city in the country. It's got that Fountain of Youth. You know, pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah,
A
the
friend of
water's
mine
awful. Sulfur water.
recommended a place. It was like really it was like a really opulent little town, and it looks like just like you're in Dubai or something. All the places are
Cool.
really ritzy and
That's
yeah. So
interesting.
that yeah, yeah, looked pretty cool. But I was like, man, that must have cost a fortune. Um, so
Yeah,
we'll find out what's going on. Like you said, we'll have some time off. I'll make another post, see if we can get some more
yeah. I'll probably cut it short.
recommendations.
Like I said, we're gonna be short tonight. I know, so I just
Yeah,
I'm kind of distracted right now for some reason. So
sure.
sorry.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, did anything else stick out to you? I'll pick like one or two more things that stuck out to me.
Go
If
ahead, man. You
yeah,
discuss. I've taken most of the time usually.
I mean, it's all good discussion. Let's see. It seems like
Yeah,
some people are going back and listening. So
I think one of the things that was interesting is how they always made sure to keep you in check, like not thinking that you're doing anything. I thought that's very
mm,
important. Like
yeah,
whatever you're doing, make sure you're doing it, you know, because you got to keep yourself in check. Because that's the difficult part. Is even when you do good, you still have to deal with yourself. Like, you know,
yeah,
are you doing it to be seen? Or are you just doing it from the goodness of your, you know, how are you
right,
doing it? You know, what are you?
right.
That's a
Yeah.
difficult thing. That's a difficult thing to do. It
It
really is.
is. It really is because there's almost like this compulsion sometimes too to tell somebody about it. Even if it comes out later, you're not like you immediately do it, but you're like, well, this one time I donated to or whatever, and you're like, that was the thing I wasn't supposed to do, right? If the left hand and right hand shouldn't know,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
that's
you
right.
just,
That's a difficult thing.
yeah, yeah. Especially with what I thought was interesting. He talked about don't let anybody know about your afflictions and keep that to yourself. And if God is going to give you something and take you out of it,
That's
then you
good.
can, and he said that's where you should get your answers from instead of,
That's a
talking
good
to other
point.
people.
It is.
Which I mean, it's hard. I feel like if you're looking for prayer, sometimes that could be difficult because you can almost get like the opposite effect with the drama. If you say, "Hey man, can you pray for me?" Yeah, what about? I just like to keep it to myself. People can get a little weird. They're like, "Is this drama or is this like it's private?" And like, "Hey, there's something wrong with my testicles or something." It's like it's like I'm gonna keep that.
Yeah, that's
Whatever.
yeah. It's one of those things. There's always a balance. It's a
Right.
plumb line when you do these
Right.
things.
Yeah.
That's a point that they make. You know, make sure that you remain balanced. You know, don't
Yeah.
overemphasize one point because then you'll let the others lack. That's
Right.
very. It's yeah. It's very very challenging. And
Yeah.
these people were workers. They weren't. those that went to the mountains as recluse.
Right.
So they worked, so
Yeah, I mean, he
they
talks
lived
about
a
the
life.
value of that.
They lived a life, amongst people. So
Right, right.
yeah,
I was reading something today about how we got the Bible and how these scholars found all these pieces and put all this stuff together. And
yeah,
one of
big
them
piece
was
of
saying, yeah, one of these guys was saying apparently that was learning his eighth language or something when he was
oh wow,
and I was just like,
it's
geez,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, like all of the other work that you're doing, you're learning languages and transposing and also staying alive and being a fisherman or whatever, all this other stuff that these guys do, and they're on
It's
their
crazy, isn't it?
eighth language. And
Yeah,
these guys,
I guess when you start learning them, it just, what I'm saying, it's like just practice. The more you practice something, the more
right.
you're gonna get better at it.
Yeah, I
It's
would
like
think.
people, once you can play an instrument, you can play. Once you learn an instrument, you can pick up another instrument just with the chords.
Right, right. Or yeah, if you learn like brass, the embouchure for brass, you can kind
Yeah.
of carry that over. And yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think too, a lot of with the languages, if you learn the Latin, I'm assuming most of these guys knew Latin. I mean, I know they were
Yeah.
translating stuff from Greek and stuff. I'm sure that would make life a lot easier too once you learn like the real base things like that. Let's see. I'll pick one out of here. Let's see. Maybe 234. This was kind of close to one of my segments here.
See what you got.
234.
All right. What you got?
Every time you take communion, it's about halfway down. While partaking in
Yes,
his bloodless sacrifice, offer yourself as a sacrifice to God. That is, profess your complete readiness to endure every affliction, every sorrow, and every wrong you may meet in the course of your life for the sake of the love of God who sacrificed himself for us. And he's actually talked about that before, about how, like, if the Lord could suffer all of it in that moment, how much more should you be able to take it and say, this is just part of what I should be doing is
Right.
accepting that. And also there was a point, let me see if I can find this here. Is it 203? I already went through 203. 245 maybe, where he talks about being thankful for it. I don't remember where I have it, but yeah, he says, thank God for all these moments. And also, I think I covered it last week too. He talks about like how much more is it to your benefit and to the glory of God for you to suffer at the hands of someone that you love or have done something for, rather than the outside thing, like a hurricane or something. He said that those are those moments when you can practice like true Christian
Well, it's like
love.
the principle is like, if you suffer for doing wrong, what's the benefit of that?
Right. Yeah.
But so speaking, taking a stand for truth does bring forth persecution.
Yeah.
It always will. It just you get separated. It's a difficult walk sometimes.
It feels like it's easier, in at least in theory, to say, yeah, I die for what I believe in. But then in like my day-to-day walk of life, like, am I really actually doing anything related to that? It's so comfortable.
That's a good question. That's a good question. That's very good. That's very profound at your age.
Thanks. I'm so smart. I'm so
telling
smart.
you, it's flowing, man.
Right.
It's like oozes out of you.
Right. But I do appreciate that he goes through this quite a bit and says, like, here are the little things you can do and the mindsets and the prayers in order to make yourself stronger when it does come to count,
Right.
So that I think is really powerful.
The anniversary next Saturday.
You?
Yeah, 22 years.
No way. What are you guys gonna do?
I don't know.
So no, you gotta figure it out. But you didn't forget, so that's important.
No, I remember. Yeah. So it's a day that I do.
Is there a point where, I don't want to say it loses value, but as it comes around, is it not quite as like sparked fly type thing? And you're like, hey, we made it to 22 years. Or is it like every time it's coming up, you're like,
milestones. There's always going to be a different milestone. Once you get past a certain point, it's always means something to me. I mean, I think about it because I think it's a special time, when you make a commitment. So,
do you guys ever?
It's always easy. So,
do you cover what's happened over the last year at all and say, wow, No, I assume not too much changes. I mean, unless you start a business or move.
So yeah, we've been to St. Augustine several times on our anniversary.
Nice.
Yeah, she loves that place.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just the architecture is awesome and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're married October. That's it. That's awesome.
It's coming up.
It's a ride, man. You learn about yourself. You learn you don't know everything. It's an unbelievable experience for both people. You're not always right.
Right. What's
And sometimes, and I'm not saying just to go, but a lot of things aren't worth arguing about.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Is there a point where do you learn what is worth arguing about? You're like, if I don't make this point here, if I don't take a stand or whatever,
That's
that
what I'm dealing
this
with right now, actually, about life. Like, what am I
really,
supposed to say? Yeah, what are you supposed to say? Because
yeah,
you love this person, I love her, and so it's like, what am I supposed to say? We
yeah.
talk, but I'm trying to open more communication.
Yeah, I think for me, I sometimes I maybe take too long to think it through and take a
We
couple of
all do.
days.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, and just like, should I have
Men
blown
want
up
to
in the
fix,
moment?
man. Men want to fix things.
I know, I know.
Good for ourselves, we'll neglect our like one of the
Yeah.
funniest things about me, and oh man, this is the truth because comedians talk about it. So is like you need to like put a shelf up in your house. It's
Hmm.
only going to take 30 minutes to put a shelf up,
Hmm.
but it takes you 6 months to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. There's
And
all
he
the
goes, it was funny. My son wanted shelves in his room, and my wife mentioned it several times. And then finally, I got the materials, and the
mhm.
materials stood there for a while.
Right.
And then one day there was supper at her mother's, and I was like, I left and I went and put them up.
Huh.
And he's like, wow, that didn't, I was like, no, it doesn't take long. It's the same with the garage. It took me forever. Then we did it. So
Right. You almost have to
yeah.
find the motivation and the oomph, the inspiration to get into it.
Well, it's like they say, why do today what you can put off till tomorrow?
Yeah, those shelves are not necessary. You're gonna be
Yeah.
fine.
Why do today what you can, man?
Right.
No, that is definitely, man, procrastination is awful for me. Because
Yeah,
I have terrible ADD, and I'm terrible at keeping up. I'm not a moron, but I know math, but I still get absent-minded about like writing in checkbooks and stuff.
sure,
It's
sure.
simple things sometimes. It's ridiculous.
That's one thing I'm dealing with right now. We went and visited some friends, and they have a little farm, and they actually dug us up some of their strawberry plants and gave it to us. And they're
Cool.
just I planted some almost immediately, like a few days afterwards. We just kind of had to leave them sit for a bit, and just with being sick and whatever. And I got some of them in the ground. They're all basically dead, but some other ones survived. So we put them in a bowl, and we were just watering them in the bowl. Well, I just went over finally. I had the energy and the time, and I wrote it on my to-do list. I got around to it, and as I'm pulling them out of the bowl, everything in the bowl has been rotting, and there's just flies and
Wow.
stench, and it's just all been composting. And I was like, well, this sucks. And I finally got around to it because they've been green, right? The leaves have been green. You pull them out of the bowl, and everything in the bottom is just rotten. And I was like, well, lesson learned. And that was their hard effort, and I feel
That's
really bad
crazy.
about it. Yeah,
That's
I feel
crazy.
really bad about it. So,
Well, brother, I'm probably
yeah,
gonna jump off here if it's cool.
yeah, absolutely, man. Well, hey,
Yeah,
I hope
so
whatever you're dealing with, you squared away and have a
it'll
good
be all
week.
right.
We'll find and like I said, when you get time, look through your shelf. If you find one or two suggestions, throw them on that
Sure.
post. And
No
I'd rather find something that you and we know we're going to read or have read, or I'd rather do that. So,
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah, make a suggestion or whatever. Yeah, I'll put something up. I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Yeah. You have a good night, and I'll go through one or two points here, and then I'll wrap it up. So,
All right, thank you, brother.
Thanks for stopping in, man.
No problem. Oh, sorry.
You're good. Here, I can move you out too.
I'm
See
trying
you.
to.
2 weeks. Hey, and enjoy your Father's Day too.
Oh yes, you too, brother.
Bye. Okay. There we go. Well, that was very pleasant. I'm glad we got to see him for a minute. I did write some points down, so I wanted to go ahead and actually go through a couple of these. I wanted to touch on, I have 218 for discipline. And I'll, like I said, since we chatted for a bit about life, I'll go ahead and find some of these. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about for the work that you have to do. I liked on 218, aids to success in gaining the habit of prayer. And he said, keep your body strictly disciplined in food, sleep, and rest. Do not give it anything simply because it wants it. As the apostle says, make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lusts thereof. Give no respite to the flesh. And he goes on to talk about how later, when prayer begins to act in you, it will itself indicate what can be added without harming it. I thought that was great. So not only should you remove certain pleasures and things from your life, but prayer almost becomes this living thing when you do those things and remove it, and then you invite the prayer in your life and the meditation and the thinking and the principles, the prayer will begin to act in you and indicate when it can or what can be added without harming it. So adding those other things back in. I thought that was really great. And then talks about guard your senses, above all the eyes and ears, and then semicolon, also tie your tongue. And if you ever go through like an English or literature class, like all of the semicolons or the ands or the what's the classic is what's the therefore. I always found that one kind of funny. There's a semicolon. It says, especially guard your senses, above all, eyes and ears, semicolon, also tie your tongue. Without this guarding, you will not make a single step forward in the work of prayer. So very cool way to put that. And especially like it, again, drew my attention to that tie your tongue. Let's see. I went on for some of the affliction. Like I said, inner peace was a really big one. 252 kind of kicks it off with the meditation, or not, it doesn't say meditation, but thinking about death. This is something I've seen. I think Ryan Holiday talks about it with his study on Marcus Aurelius, talks about how you need to wake up and think about death and say, okay, every single moment of today could potentially be my last. Luckily I wake up today and I have it. And then everything I do, I should do it as if it's my last day. And he says, what is it like if it's the last thing you do it as if whatever you're going to do today, do it as if it's the last thing you're going to do. And that way you leave that kind of legacy and you go at it with such a fervor and an intensity. But let's see. Moreover, think often of death with attention, bringing to mind everything which must then happen. If you do this, that hour will not catch you unawares, and so will not frighten you, or will not frighten you too much. And your soul, not weakened by fear, will show itself more firm and strong to undertake the struggle and overcome the enemy. And he goes on to talk about how the men of the world, they don't do that, and then they basically freak out when it's time to part with life. This is something I'm not too worried about. I mean, maybe I'm young and reckless and I don't have a family yet to support, but kind of like David and I talked about, in that hour of death, it's like I'm mentally prepared for that. Can I say, yeah, if someone were to put a gun to my head and said, renounce your faith or die, I'd be like, oh, this is the moment. Like, this is the moment I've been preparing for. So why would I renounce? It doesn't seem to make any sense. Now, I think the real test, and you'll see this in any Hollywood movie, is when they put the gun to somebody else's head that you care about. Now things change, right? The stakes are higher because originally you were going to sacrifice yourself. You were going to go meet Jesus or, whatever the plot line of the movie is. But when they put someone else's life on the line, or torture or whatever, then those are the moments when it really matters, right? When, all the cards are down or chips are on the table or whatever it is that, like, this is going to cause somebody else suffering. Do you really believe in it? Not that too many people really experience that. I'm sure there are missionaries all over the world that have experienced that to some degree, but it could certainly be. I'm sure even as a father, like going without food to feed your kid or something can be very, or going without pleasures, or telling them, hey, we can't get new shoes or vacation or something because X, Y, and Z financial reasons or whatever it is. Those can be tough moments where it's like, do I really love my son or my family enough and unconditionally to take my food off my plate and put it on theirs? I think I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but the idea being that when you meditate on death, it has to carry on beyond just your own death, almost. Like, what are you leaving behind? Who are you leaving behind? And I think that focus on your connection with Christ and to the power of God is what makes all the difference in leaving all those worldly pleasures. He says, men of this world flee from the thought and memory of death so as not to interrupt the pleasures and enjoyment of their senses, which are incompatible with memory of death. This makes their attachment to the blessings of the world continually grow and strengthen more and more, since they meet nothing opposed to it. But when the time comes, they are cast into excessive turmoil, terror, and torment. So I don't know if that's something to think about, as you meditate on death, like, what and who am I leaving behind at the same time? And am I comfortable with that? So yeah, 258 and 259, inner peace. He hits the peace stuff several times. So 258, 259. Actually, I noted this with my pen and I highlighted part of it. Let's see. To preserve inner peace, he goes on about correcting your senses, accustomed to behave with decorous quietness in your external movements and actions. You will easily and without labor acquire peace within yourself in the heart. For according to the testimony of the fathers, the inner man takes his tone from the outer man. And I think this certainly goes, it's almost like that in simplicity, the idea of like dress for the job you want. If you wear a suit and go in for an interview, you are portraying who you are really in that moment, who you want to be. But for the person on the other side of the interview, it's who you are and what you present and what you bring to the table. Even if you're slightly underqualified or you're really trying to move up, it's almost like you have to fake it to make it. But in this, it's a similar concept. Like, you have to act like a man that has peace in order to have peace. All those moments he talks about, God will give you situations and stuff to practice humility. You have to take those moments and not say, man, I really wish I had some humility. I wish I were a humble person for this. Man, I really wish I had some patience. You have to say, in this moment, I am going to be patient. And then by the end of your life, it's like, I've become a very patient person. Wow. Through the help of God and through my trials and tribulations, I've become very humble. Not that you would really be saying that, but you get the point that as you act like the person that needs it, as you, in the face of danger, act like a courageous man, you will find that that becomes courage inducing. I've actually just read a fiction book. It's more of like the young adult fiction, kind of makes me chuckle, but I read these in high school. I mentioned this before with David, the Pendragon series. If anybody has younger kids, these are excellent, and there's 10 of them, and probably the best series I've ever read. And again, like I said, I read it in high school, but these are amazing. But in this book, it's the first one. He gets pulled into the world, or a different world, really. And he talks about how he's a scared 14-year-old and he doesn't know anything and he doesn't want to be there. And then, of course, by the end of the book, I'm not really spoiling anything, but he's become a different person because there were scenarios where he had to act. And he was just like, I just knew what I had to do. And then eventually realizes, like, I'm just the person that has to do this job. I am chosen for this. So I don't think I've spoiled anything. Obviously, if there's 10 of these books. So it really does come down to, in those moments of trying times and stuff, you just have to choose to be that person. And you really can't wait for, you can't practice humility in your bedroom. You have to practice humility when moments require you to be humble. So, or patient. But yeah, the inner man takes his tone from the outer man. I highlighted that. I thought that was beautiful. Let's see. What else was in here? 249. If your consciousness, or if your conscience, is thus kept clean, it will produce, deepen, and strengthen inner peace. As David says, great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. And he goes on to say, make sure you bear all unpleasantness and insults without perturbation. It's true that before you acquire this habit, you will have to grieve and suffer much in your heart through lack of experience in controlling yourself in such cases. But once this habit is acquired, your soul will find great comfort in the very troubles you meet with. You have to build the habit, and then really, and that's again part of the scripture that, you will not be given anything you can't handle. There are going to be times when you're met with things that you think are above and beyond anything you can handle, and they're going to try you and break you down, and yet you kind of look back 10 years later, it's like you blink, and then you look back and you're like, holy cow, that happened 10 years ago. Look at all this stuff I've been through and been prepared for. Sometimes that first real trauma is a real shock to people, and you can experience it really early too. But there are people that have experienced so much pain and loss and trouble and trauma that make it through. And then there's other challenges that come in life, and they're like, you know what? I am prepared for this. I'm a very strong person. I can handle this. And then there are times when it's bigger, but it's kind of it works both ways. When you've handled something really hard earlier in life, a lesser trouble, you can conquer, and something that's a greater trouble, you're like, you know what? I'm ready for this. We can take this on. Now you understand how to deal with some of the stuff. You've got a support network, you've got your prayer life together. And when there's bigger troubles, it's like, you know what? We've not been through worse, but we've been through some tough stuff, and we've survived and made it this long, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. Let's see, is there anything else on this page? It's a lot of good stuff here. Yeah, he talks about how Jesus prayed 3 times in the garden, and that's how we should go to prayer. His example to prayer should be your refuge in every stress, in and affliction of the heart, that no matter how faint-hearted and grieved you may be, you should not abandon it until you reach a state when your will is in complete accord with the will of God. And calmed by this, your heart is filled with courageous daring and is joyfully ready to meet, accept, and bear the very thing it feared and wished to avoid, just as Christ did in the Garden of Gethsemane. Really great. Peace of heart is established little by little. That's the other thing too, is you got to remember, if you're trying to be a patient person, humble person, courageous person, someone with peace, it's just little bits at a time, because if you really are building these like a habit, as he says, I mean, I've got all kinds of productivity books now, as I've been collecting some of them on building habits and the powers of habit, and starting with little things like, you cannot sit down and read for 6 hours a day until you've learned to sit there and read for 30 minutes or start. I actually, sort of off topic, but a long time ago when I moved to San Diego, I was moving there to study film and acting, and I was going to make my way to Los Angeles. I picked up this book, An Actor Prepares by Konstantin Stanislavski. And I have to hold all these like right next to my face for the focus. And I started reading it. I had not finished a book since like early high school. Like those Pendragon books were probably the last ones. I started those in middle school, read them in high school. And I started with this. And it's, I believe he's Russian. And a lot of it is some difficult like acting techniques, and some of it's just dry. I mean, it's not like a fun text, but a lot of just the techniques. It's like learning to play scales. And when I realized I was basically reading like a tier 1 guitar playing book, you know, it just becomes very dry. And I had to basically read 2 pages a day. That's what I did. Or I started with like 5 minutes. And because I'd not read a book in so long, I actually put this down. And then I read these tiny books on how to know God exists. This was a really small one about the lost treasures of Genesis. I read a very tiny like introductory book on A Student's Guide to Philosophy. And then I decided, you know what? I almost need to build my attention span and my imagination. If I'm going to take on a book that says, put your imagination to work and learn how to act, I almost need to start with even that building block. Before I need to learn how to read, number one. So I started with some small books, got a few on the shelf. I was like, okay, I can sit down and read a book, and they're like 50 pages, but they were fairly complex ideas. But it was like building the habit of open a book and get it done in a week, you know, move through the building block there. But then I realized I don't even have a true attention span. And this, you know, you can stay with a novel or a fiction book for a long period of time because it's so engaging and things move quickly, and thriller kind of. These are great books, by the way, the Ted Dekker series, the Circle Red or Black, Red, White, Green. I read these in high school too. And I just knew, going back to material that I'd already read, number one, that was engaging, number two, would just be a great building block. And then once I got to this, I was able to plow through this, and really I had built these sort of habits, I guess you could say, and the building blocks of that. So yeah, I really appreciated that you talked about how peace of heart is established little by little. So there's a couple points in the inner piece here. Yeah, 267. It's we're kind of jumping around a little bit like we did last week, but 267. One of the great obstacles to preserving inner peace, now that you've built it, preserving inner peace, my brother, is binding yourself as by some immutable law, by a set rule, to read so many Psalms and so many chapters from the Gospels and Epistles. And he talks about how if you just go through racing through this to say, oh, I read everything, you're gonna become frustrated because you're not actually taking any of it in. You're not feeding yourself spiritual fruit or bearing any spiritual fruit. He says, if you wish to gain, from St. Isaac, if you wish to gain delight in reading text and understand the words of the Spirit you utter, brush aside the quantity and number of verses so that your mind could be absorbed in studying the words of the Spirit until, filled with wonder at the divine dispensation, your soul is incited to a lofty understanding of them and is thus moved to praise of God or to sorrow that profits the soul. Slavish work brings no peace to the mind, and anxiety usually deprives the reason and understanding of the power of taste and robs the thoughts like a leech. So, yeah, once you build it, you have to preserve it. One of these great ones, and I was kind of hoping Dave and I could cover this, but we talk a lot on this about a lot of current events with certain injections and things like that. And, sometimes we try so hard to wake people up on all kinds of fun topics in life. It's like you stumble on some of these discussions with people and you're like, you kind of laugh. Sometimes you just have to learn to laugh with it or make the joke or whatever, try and plant the seed, which is the point here. But you cannot convince somebody of a totally life-altering truth in one moment, in one conversation. It just doesn't work. If people are open to having a discussion about stuff, tossing around some ideas, and they're willing to say, never thought about that, you can have a great conversation, but you're never going to change somebody's mind immediately on stuff. They have to dig for it and whatever. But 264. But do not importune all people indiscriminately with your words, for in this way you will only destroy your peace with others and in yourself. Something I've experienced. Have an ardent zeal and a strong desire for everyone to know the truth in the same degree of perfection as you have it, and to be intoxicated with this wine, which God has promised and which is now given by him without price. It's given for free. He's saying, you've got the peace, you've got the knowledge and the truth. You want to give it to them, which is great. But let's see. Don't have the zeal for sharing this for the wrong reasons. Make sure it's arising from your love of God. God will himself plant such love for your brethren in your soul when it has renounced all things, and will come in his own time to collect its fruit. But you must not sow anything of your own accord. All you have to do is to offer to God the earth of your heart, free of all tares and thistles, and he will sow the seed in it, how and when he wills. This seed will bring fruit in its proper time. So, like I said, I think sometimes, whether it's godly truth, whether it's about your faith, evangelism is very important, and sharing your faith with people is, especially in real time in your real life with people, like what we were talking about earlier, your day-to-day walk. It's very important, but trying to force the seed to grow immediately with people, even if it's truth, even if it's something that could help them or save them or whatever, it's not your job. It's really to prepare, like he says here, you must not sow anything of your own accord. All you have to do is offer God the earth of your heart, free of all tares and thistles, and he will sow the seed in it. You have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare your own soil. You have to prepare your own mind and your heart and your soul, and let God do the work. And hopefully through that, your fruit being born will show that to other people. And you can take those moments to help water the seed a little bit, but you can only do so much. God really is the, not the farmer. What's in the parable? What's he call it? The sower, I guess his parable. The sower. God's the one that really plants the seeds, even though you are the hands and the feet. God is the one to do that and help them to grow and take root. So I thought that was great. It's just very easy to get caught up in, I'm going to save you. I'm going to save you. You're going to understand. It's very easy to get caught up in that in your day-to-day life or interesting struggles. Meditating on death, peace and humility. 275. Let's see if there's something good on 275, and I'll just wrap up here. There's a lot of stuff about affliction here, which we've covered a couple weeks in a row, so I don't feel like I need to go over that. But I did appreciate the passage in here where he talked about. This was a good one. So take care. This is about giving thanks. Really simple and a powerful way to think about this. So take care to keep feelings of gratitude to God warm from the first moment of awakening from sleep and throughout the day, and go to sleep with words of thanks on your lips, for you are immersed in divine blessings, one of which is sleep itself. God does not need your thanks, but you stand in extreme need of divine blessings. And then later on, he says, if we do not give thanks for the blessings given by God, it becomes necessary to withdraw these blessings in order to bring us to our senses. I thought those were great. Sleep. You better be waking up and going to bed with thanks on your lips, because you are about to have sleep. And when you've woken up, be thankful you got the sleep and be thankful you've got another day. God does not need it, but you are in need of God. And we clearly need sleep. So I thought that was great. You stand in extreme need of divine blessings, and sleep is one of them. And it's so true. I mean, anybody that's ever had poor sleep knows. When you have poor sleep, even for one night, the next day is terrible. So I appreciate that the last few weeks of this have been short. I set the time for 9 p.m. or whatever, but it is nice to cut off a little bit earlier than 11 to start the week off with a good amount of sleep. But Every chat we've had has been so fruitful. I don't mind losing an hour or so. But I love that it becomes necessary to withdraw the blessings in order to bring it to our senses and to be thankful. And that's something I've certainly learned over the last few, gosh, almost a year now, but definitely the last 2 months. It's just basic processes in the body that I've taken for granted. And a lot of, I'm sure we all do. Breathing, I've started doing some breath work, meditating to have a quiet mind and just be appreciative of the stillness. I've been getting up around a little bit before 6 a.m. now, and I'm able to get some spiritual reading in, which has been this for the last several weeks, and some regular reading and some journaling, a little meditation. And I take a walk. And when I go out for my walk, the sun is up a little bit, and some of the skies have been so beautiful, and you can hear the birds, and sometimes it's rained the night before, so the morning has that sort of dewy smell. And they've just been a series of wonderful mornings from Monday to today. So almost, yeah, a whole week. And I've just been writing like, God is good. God is so great. Like, I'm thankful for this. And it's just quiet time, and no, I'm not the entrepreneur that's up at 4 a.m. and is awake before and, got everything done before the world wakes up. But those little moments of like peace and stillness have been so restorative and beautiful. And like I said, some of the skies I've seen or some of the mist in the morning it's just not something you catch when you're up 30 minutes before work, you cram breakfast down your gullet, get in the car, rush through traffic, and you're angry at everybody because they're not letting you get to work fast enough. Having that hour of just quiet stillness beforehand has been amazing. So I really do hope I can keep building on that habit. So I think that is very, very important. And it helps to cultivate inner peace because you started your day off with an hour that's yours and nobody can take that away from you after the fact, especially if in my Catalyst group, we have a challenge right now going on for the next 20 days or so. We're doing it for 30 days to not look at your phone for the first half hour, except to like turn off an alarm or something. Not having that, it's like they've gone hand in hand. I'm now not distracted with the phone, so I can contribute more to my morning, but also having a busy morning of the quiet stillness in my little routine also keeps me away from my phone. So it's kind of a nice cycle and like a give and take there, but it's just produced, even if during the day I'm so tired or I get busy or, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have one thing after the other and then work and then an engagement afterwards or whatever. I know I've read for the day. I've gotten my meditation in for the day and it's set me up and I can go to bed late if I have to, knowing I had me time and God time and things like that. So certainly been a great week for that. And I hope to continue that tomorrow. I thought those were really great. And I just lost my place there, but just that giving thanks, going to bed and waking up thankful it's the least we can do. It costs nothing. And that's something, like I was saying, just basic life processes like having a working stomach and working bowels and working lungs and a heart that pumps and hands that work. I broke my hand back in November of last year. And you become taking things for granted and very complacent very quickly. But like putting on a shirt with no pain for weeks, I was just like, thank you, God, so much. Thank you. I can pick up a spoon of cereal and it doesn't hurt like hell. Now I can lift and open doors and stuff without my left hand, and I can drive. And it becomes very easy to lose sight of that very quickly. But in those moments when it hurts, it makes you think not just thank you for this movement or thank you for working bowels or whatever it is, but you start to really analyze like everything, like how hard things can be with one hand or how hard they can be with one eye or whatever it is. And it's just, it's very powerful. Like you said, sometimes God has to take those things away and just say, you know what, it'll be a couple of months before you feel better. You'll learn to rely on me. You'll be okay, and you'll get medicated or you'll find the diet. I mean, like we talked about, I picked up Wheat Belly, got this from mother. I bought some other stuff. Like I started looking into health. I'm eating more fruits and vegetables than ever and starting with small meals, and now they're bigger. So, it's been 2 months and this has been the best week in 2 months. And hopefully, if I'm smart about it and I'm good about it and respectful to myself and truly grateful to God, then I will continue those habits and the lifestyle moving forward and making those changes. So hopefully you guys have all learned something. If you've watched this far, I wish we could have had more people discussing this, but that's okay. Like I told David, he should make some suggestions. I'll make another post, maybe in community instead of book club. That way we can get some more eyes on it, draw some more people in. I know there's been people following along, which is excellent. Steven's already read this, so he said he was following along. He was a little behind. One of the other bears said that they were couldn't make the live chats, but they were following along and watching them afterwards. So I just appreciate anybody that's joined us for the second book. I'm going to try and be better about this stuff for this next month. Now that I'm feeling better and I have better energy, I will be a little bit busy with some other endeavors, but it's very difficult to do anything other than like sit when you have pain internally that you can't figure out, and it just saps all of your energy. So I'm hoping that I'm moving in the right direction. Not that I'm trying to turn this into a personal thing, but I'm hoping to do more quotes, more graphics, more posts on this, more engagement, so that people are actually interested in joining and hopping on and discussing stuff. So thanks again. I hope to see everybody 2 weeks from now. Next week is Father's Day. Don't forget. And hopefully we will have a book choice by then. And then everybody will have like a week to order it and get it in. And then we'll probably go like 5 or 6 weeks, and we just won't stay month to month. We'll get something that's got a little meat to it or whatever it is. And this was nice to have for about 6 weeks. So it's just very, like I said with David, just dense, sometimes meaty, spiritual material that shouldn't be rushed through. So I'm glad we took our time with it. We had a couple weeks off, but hopefully we'll build the momentum again and continue on through June and July, really into July and maybe even August. So thanks again for watching. I'm going to cut it off here. No more salutations, but I hope you guys have a great week and a fantastic Father's Day. Stay tuned, and we will find something else